Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you so much for being on time this morning. I promise you this will be one of the fastest trainings that you're going to receive on any Wednesday webinar because it's going to be brief, quick, to the point, as most of you understand that the middle of the month is approaching us, and it's going to be taking place this Friday. It will mark, we're halfway through the the month of April already. I can't believe it, as much as you can't either. So this is going to be great knowledge for you guys to take back to your store, to your team, and put something together to be able to meet with everyone midway through the month and understand exactly how to do so. So for those of you who have not yet in your roles conducted these meetings, or maybe you knew of them, you just haven't done them each and every single month, as you know you probably should, but you just get so busy. Hopefully this will provide you with enough of the information and education on it to make it to where you do start conducting these every month moving forward, as they're super beneficial. And you will find that when you start doing them, you'll see an entirely new team of Eagles that are in your stores. So again, thank you for joining. This is just going to be something that's going to help and assist you. Hopefully you'll put this in place as soon as we hang up from this training. You'll be able to put something together for the end of this week for your team. And feel confident in doing so. Usually our Wednesday webinars are a training platform for all positions in the spa. Usually it's for anybody who can hop on because it's usually performance training, right, on sales, marketing, and so on and so forth. This one, however, is more so for management, for franchisees, so that you are well aware on how to be leaders and good leaders and managers and staying on top of things and staying accountable, staying in the know. And it's important for all of you out there to understand that that is the only way you will succeed in Planet Beach, is making sure that you are well aware where you're at month to date at all times. And I always like to say it myself and every other training is, if you're not managing by the hour, then you're not managing at all. Instead of waiting till the end of the day to look at the daily goals, or maybe once or twice a day checking in on the goals, or waiting till the end of the month and trying to pull tricks out of your hat to hit goals and so on and so forth. That is not going to get you where you want to be. That's not going to make the business itself take off. You won't make the money that you know you can make in your role, and then nobody wins. So doing these are very important, and we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to see why here in just a second. But it is going to be a brief training, and as always, when we wrap up, it will be recorded and posted to all Planet Beach platforms, and you'll most likely get an email with the recording as well in case you have to put the phone on hold for a second or whatnot if you can't make it through the entire thing. So let's take a look at what we're going to be covering today, just so that you guys are aware and what you know to expect. We're going to go through the purpose and importance of holding a monthly or a mid-month assessment meeting with your team. We're going to just kind of go through why it's important for those of you who you know it's there, but you just don't have time, but really dig deep and find out and figure out what's the purpose, why it's so important, why we keep drilling that down to you guys. We're going to also talk about the tools and resources that you'll need to be able to pull one of these off the right way. We're going to talk about the strategy and agenda behind them and how you should be doing them and what your focus should be on, as well as how to stay disciplined to continue holding them. So should be touching into all avenues of these mid-month meetings. And a lot of these mid-month meetings are also very similar. A lot of these steps and a lot of the thought processes behind them and preparation, it kind of goes into your end of the month review meeting as well, when you meet at the beginnings of the month to sort of go through the previous month and then game plan for the upcoming month. It's very, very similar. Only it's not going to be as focused and as mandatory for your entire team to be there physically in the store or wherever you're hosting the meetings. That's where it's a little bit different, but we'll go through that right now. So let's talk first, because we talked about what you need to do to be prepared for these. So the tools that you're going to use, you'll notice in your control panel of your webinar, you'll notice the handouts section has some files in there. That's for you guys to go ahead and download now to save to your computers. That way you don't have to go digging around in Orion later on and look for these specific files that I'm referencing here in this webinar. So I put that there for you guys for your convenience. So I hope that you've noticed that and already saved that in there. One of these tools are the individual and monthly action plan. In your files, it is titled mid-month assessment action sheet or something like that. That is what the Excel sheet, that's the file format that it's in, that's what that is in there. This is a tool that automatically puts together, and I'll show you an example here throughout this webinar. It actually computes everything for you based on the formulas that are in that worksheet. So it's going to be super helpful for you to figure everything out without needing a calculator. It'll do it for you. Also, the monthly meeting agenda that we always talk about when we host our end of the month and upcoming month reviews with our staff, you can use that same agenda to follow along with, just to make sure that you stick to a feasible time frame of your meeting, because we all know how simple it is to just sort of write down what you do want to cover. However, you get off track, you start talking about one thing, and then all of a sudden the meeting turns into a social hour and everybody's got to go because they only had a babysitter for like an hour, right? So there is an agenda there, and it's important that you use that as your guideline, and it is in a Word doc as well for you to be able to modify. And like I always say, if you modify, please be sure that it's to add stuff, never to take stuff away, because everything that is given to you on a Word doc that is modifiable, there are reasons that there are specific things on that document. So whenever you go to make any modifications or updates to it, just be sure that you're adding and not taking away, because it's important that you cover it. And then lastly, the other tool resources that you would need based on what your assessment to your goals are, what your actuals are, what that reveals to you. You will need whatever training documents or videos, webinars, any kind of manual, whatever the case might be. Those resources will need to be prepared and readily available for you before hosting this meeting, that so that you can actually follow up with a little small training at the end of this meeting. That way you can strengthen all the areas that need improvement, based on what you reveal. So that way you can hit your goals or exceed your goals by the time the month end comes. First, let's talk about when we host these. Obviously, it's called a mid-month meeting assessment. So when do we host these meetings? You want to make sure that it's between the 13th and 17th of each month. And I say that because some months are only 30 days, some months are 31 days. Then there are, sometimes the 15th or the 14th or 15th, depending on how many days in the month there are. It might fall on a day like a Thursday where you can't necessarily host the meeting at all, because that's another thing. Never host any meetings that you have during hours of operation, because of all the distractions, like the phones ringing, people coming in and out to use the services, walk-ins or red appointments that you set. I know that sometimes whenever we look to host any kind of communications meeting, or we want to meet with our staff, or we want to have one-on-ones with people, whatever the case might be, when we get one little distraction, it throws us off for the rest of the time, and we don't ever get to accomplish what we're covering. So that's why you see, usually make sure it's between the 13th and 17th, because depending on if it's a Friday or Saturday or Sunday where you can host this after hours, it might fluctuate on when it actually falls. But this is usually when you want to host these meetings. Let's talk about where. Well, unlike the end of the month review and the upcoming month game plan meeting like we just discussed, this meeting is mandatory, yet it's not mandatory to physically attend in person. Yes, that's always best. However, many stores that we talk to here frequently in Spa Performance, we notice that a lot of stores or a lot of our locations out there usually just either blow off the meeting, or they say, oh, well, maybe we'll just focus on or worry about it next month because, Amy has class, and then, Bridget can't find a babysitter, so we just won't do it. Well, obviously there are some things like somebody being in school or class that they can't physically call in or do anything like that where they can attend, but don't not host a meeting, don't not have this assessment to sit back and look at all of these very crucial things that'll help you hit goal. Don't just not do it because one or two people cannot be connected in a certain way. So what we're suggesting is, there were times in the past I'd hold these meetings, and before there was FaceTime, I'm aging myself on that one, but there was Skype. Google now, through your email provider, through your Gmail accounts, actually the chats that you usually chat with people on, and when you're in your email, has capabilities to do video chats. And so you can do that as well. usually you want to do like a video situation where you can see that they're paying attention. But if you cannot, if they don't have any kind of platforms like that, usually at this point, most of everybody has FaceTime. Most everybody uses an iPhone. And mostly everybody has Skype if they don't. So if you can't get anybody on there, then, maybe do a conference call or call them in, but tap them into the meeting. Don't just not host it. And make it mandatory to attend. However, it doesn't have to be in person like that monthly meeting that's so important. But it is always best. You'll notice now moving into the strategy and agenda of these meetings, the mid-month assessment to goals summary worksheet that is in your handouts that you downloaded. If you're looking at the screen, this is what the first page looks like. It's directions. It tells you how to enter and put these together and update these. This is something that spa directors or franchisees, either one of you guys, when we talk about the monthly meetings to have the one-on-ones with each other, this is one of the items that I know our top locations franchisees expect to see from the spa directors when they go through the previous month's performance, to see exactly detailed on every avenue of the spa, where we were at to goal, how did we hit or exceed any areas. This is like a really good visual to use. So this is something you can actually utilize as a end of the month review tool to review as part of like going through the management binders and so on and so forth. But in this case, it's something to use specifically for the mid-month assessment to goal. And there's directions here on how to plug that information in. So note that on Excel sheets, the cells that are shaded, usually it's in green or yellow. Any cells that you see in the worksheet that are shaded are already pre-formulated. So never go in those cells and hit delete, because it will delete the formula that will ultimately compute what it is that you need out. So you'll see here in a second, I'm about to go through an example, but this is what it looks like if you're looking at the screen, where you would plug in. Now it goes through each individual consultant. What you want to do to prepare for this meeting, when you put together your strategy, you get your agenda put together, you're going to first do this. So step one to prepare is pull this sheet up and enter all the information in that it asks for per the directions that we just saw the screenshot of beforehand. So you'll see that it's divided out by consultant, but you want to have one spa-wide, and then you want to configure each individual consultants, because in this meeting, you're going to spotlight the people that are leading in retail, your consultants that are killing it in Memcash, your consultants that are great with marketing and booking right appointments, because ultimately, you'll find out in a second, that's one of the things that you're going to do and discuss is get them to share what they're doing so everybody's on the same page and everybody's just as great, not just one or the other. So you want to have one of the, I know it's just showing you consultant 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as the sheets at the bottom, but create or make consultant 1 for the spa so you can see a spa-wide breakdown. And then consultants 2, 3, 4, 5, you can duplicate those tabs at the bottom if you need to create more. Then have the rest of those tabs be your consultants and where they're each individually at to goal. This is a visual tool. There's so many reasons why this is important to implement, because this is not only a visual tool for them to see, as you see on this sheet that we're going to go through in a second, it gives you a percent to goal. So it's almost like if I had a spa director that was meeting with me saying, today's only the 13th technically, and you're 52% to goal with retail, just keep selling this. Or, if my spa director gave me a breakdown of if every day for the shifts that you work, you're scheduled to work X amount of more shifts, which is X amount more hours. If you sell, 4 PB renews per week, or 1 per shift, this will get it to where you hit it, like break it down for me and show me how I can actually do that to where I'm going to make a lot of money on my commissions and get my incentive. That's how these things work. That is how it helps you guys and getting your team to work for you, because that visual and that breakdown and that leadership of basically explaining to me point blank in detail specifically is going to help me better work for you. So keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to escape out of this and I'm going to actually show you what it's like to fill one of these out. Oops, sorry. So I went ahead and created, I just started working on this. If you're looking at your screen, you'll see it. It is a mid-month assessment to goal example for April. Now, You'll see up top at the bottom, I did consultant 1 as spa. So where do I pull these numbers from? Obviously, what I'm going to pull these numbers from is the dashboard in Spa Intel, but up top where it says total spa sales hours scheduled, all employee hours total, and then total consultant hours scheduled, specific consultant hours only. This is more so for individual consultants to configure what they're responsible for. But if I went ahead and said that total, all my consultants, and this is provided to you in your employee work schedule page, you'll see it in, let's see, if you plug in your employee work hours like you should be doing now currently in the screen here, it was what it looks like. You'll usually see number of hours scheduled right here in this box in the specific week. So if you get the total number of hours scheduled for every week that you go through, then you can get that number, add all 4 numbers up from each week, and you can get that total for you to be able to plug in the spot that you need it plugged in at. So where did it go? Oh. Here it is. So where it says total spa sales hours scheduled, I'm just going to go ahead and put 455 because that was collectively everybody's. And then put 455 because this is spa-wide, right? So I enter that information in, and as you notice, when I filled that information out, this is formulated already to tell me what percent to goal I am for the month. This will come in handy whenever you're plugging in for consultant 2 later and you go up top and you say 455, but that specific consultant, based on their hours worked to the schedule, that's contributing to the schedule total is only 223, then this consultant, that's not working out very well for me. Then let's see. This specific consultant will be 49% to whatever the goals are that I plug in here spa-wide. So that's going to help me later on when I'm trying to configure my consultant's individual, responsibilities to the goal, but we're just looking at spa here. So plugging in a fake example of the EFT increase, Memcash, retail, and all of my marketing goals here for the spa, that is all connected to this. So you see where it's showing me the percent to goals. So I'm pretty much on point except for retail. Now, what does this tell me? If I'm a spa director, I'm preparing. This is step 1. I'm filling this out first before I even touch my meeting agenda to modify it based on what this reads to me. This is telling me that I am doing pretty dang good in Memcash so far for the month of April, and I'm okay on my new members. My EFT increase, I'm okay at. I still need to keep and maintain focus on these 2 things. However, you'll see here that I'm only 46% to goal. So that's my weakest link. So when you think about what you're going to do and what your focus is going to be based around for this meeting specifically, it's going to say we're going to put a lot of focus, or we're going to put together or go look for trainings, webinars, anything on how to upsell retail, how to pair products. All those things are going to be my focus, and I'll know this whenever it comes time to assess where I'm at mid-month. So I hope that made sense to all of you guys. And then obviously end of the month actual, whenever you're reporting end of the month, like we just mentioned, one-on-one accountability meetings with managers and franchisees, you would plug this in at the very end of the month before you have your one-on-ones with each other to view the previous month totally. So this is revealing to me that obviously retail is my weakest link, that I need to say, you know what, I thought retail was going to be our strongest here because, with the new, all these new products rolling out, or with all the stuff that we've been doing. It's like last month we killed it. We sold so much retail. I just expected us to do the same this month. Now I need to reshift our focus, and I need to drop in a new or different incentive for the person that sells the most retail, just so I can boost motivation among my team and get them to work for me and drive in those retail sales. You'll see below here, underneath it, for red appointments, all the marketing and prospecting goals versus actuals. I plugged in some examples there so you could see a percent to goal and how it computes out for you there. What is my weakest area of link with my marketing and prospecting goals? Well, it looks to me like I'm pretty good with some of this stuff. I'm not ahead of anything except for my B2Bs in this case, right? in promotions. I'm pretty on point with my promotions. I still have 2 weeks left to have 2 more promotions, so I'm okay there because that's already scheduled. B2Bs, I have 7 already, just based on all the stuff from, setting it up with the tax refund places like we've gotten on these other calls and learned about. But man, I am doing terrible in guest pass distribution. We're not really putting a lot of focus on that. So I know that it's going to be something that is going to be like, I need to order more guest passes because at the meeting I want to let them know I'm going to be giving each and every one of you 1,000 to hand out, which will collectively help us hit our 5,000 goal. Ambassador leads, I'm pretty behind on that, and those are the easiest ones. So in this case scenario, I'm going to put a lot of focus on ambassador leads and guest passes. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to go digging around for any trainings on how to do those. I'm going to dig around for trainings on how to internally prospect and promote, because Danielle did a webinar on that 2 months ago, internal marketing, where it was a big push on how to effectively get ambassador leads, not just get ambassador leads. So I'm going to pull that and I'm going to have them watch that, and I'm going to get that quiz. Right, so these are all the things that will reveal to you as you plug these numbers in and you're seeing things for yourself, even saying, wow, it's like I kind of knew this, but when for some reason when you see this percent to goal in your face, sticking out in your face, it does something different to you psychologically, where you actually see this importance being a thing. You might already know some of this stuff, but this is another great tool to use whenever you show your consultant, saying, look how close you are, look how great you're doing in Memcache. If you just like literally stop, keep that momentum going with that, but start shifting your focus on this. Here, let me show you a few tricks and a few tips and things to that nature. You're gonna have your team all collectively strong in the same areas, just by doing that. So keep that in mind. You can have a specific training with your consultant on that later too, on a later date if you want to continue with that. But I just wanted to walk through a few specific scenarios so that you saw for yourself how this works and how that works in your benefit. So the next step, right, is now I'm going to pull that monthly meeting agenda out and I'm going to modify it based on everything. Now you see this is just an example. I know it says August and July on here, but it's just a screenshot for you to see and reference yourself if you've never seen this before. At this point, after you assess it, this next step is to modify this based on what was revealed to you that we just discussed, right? The guest passes, the ambassador leads, and retail are all the areas of interest that I know I need to focus on in this specific meeting, this mid-month meeting. Some of this stuff might not apply because this is an end of the month meeting agenda, upcoming month game planning agenda. So some of these things I might be able to remove or hide, so that way when I print it up later, it's not going to confuse them. But you basically see the top objections if you've not hit your July individual goals. Well, modify that to say top objections if you are not at least 50% to goal in all of your individual goals, right? So you'll modify that, let them fill that out. So that way you can get that information back. If it's something that when it's shared in that meeting, they say, oh, nobody wants to buy because, because there's a huge something in town and they're spending money on this or whatever. When it's verbally communicated in this meeting, sometimes you as the leaders don't even have to address it. Other consultants might say, oh, you know what? For everybody that does that, you know what I've been saying that's been helpful and working, and they're sharing what they're doing to overcome those things, and they're learning from each other. And guess what? It's not always you telling them what to do. They're brainstorming with each other, getting creative, getting advice from other consultants on your team. Sometimes it's best to hear it come from another voice and not the same old voice, right? We talk about that all the time when it comes to good management and leadership. So with that being said, that's specifically why we have this agenda in place and have them have to physically write out and talk about after they fill it out. So you're going to modify this based on what this is revealed. If you want to make it specific to what it's revealed, you can even add questions in there that's like, what do you find is your biggest objection whenever it comes to selling, or what are the products that are hardest for you to sell? List the products that you've never sold before. Maybe what are the top objections you get for trying to sell, specific items that frustrate you, and have them listed out. And have them put and write down based on the sheet, even if they have to look at your sheet, write down what their goal is for the rest of the month, where they're at with it, and what it would have to break down as. As you see on the screen, they physically need to calculate how many things that they need to sell and do per, not just for the rest of the month, but for the week, and broken down for each shift to hit the weekly goal, to hit the monthly goal. If you are looking at the screen and you see there on the bottom of page 1. And then the same for at the very end, you'll see there is a tell, show, do training based on the area of weakness that you want focus on. The tell, show, do training is the retail, right? The guest passes, the ambassador. We're going to do little training here, and we're going to do role play and a wrap up in discussion and have them give feedback, right? This is what all those moments are for you to take advantage of. So you're going to need to pull the materials and the trainings needed after the assessment, after you do all of this, right? Or before you start doing all of this. And then you want to also cover a spotlight. Now, when you pull and you enter all the individual consultants' goals, where they're at month to date, not just for the spa, but individually, who's the team leaders in a lot of that? And get them to say, you know, I just want to give, and surprise them, guys. You have no idea how much a little bit goes a long way for your consultants. I know you guys have done case studies on millennials. I know we've talked about it in trainings. A lot of the time, you would be surprised. A lot of the time, millennials just like to be recognized and rewarded for in recognition. Sometimes you don't have to buy a gift. Sometimes you don't need to do that. Sometimes just you can go on Word and create a template that's a certificate and make it cute, make it fun, and put their name on it and be like, you know, Retail Leader Award with their name on it and a little gold star, you know, sticker to put at the bottom, just sometimes just to recognize that. It keeps them pumped and keeps them ready to go. That's always been huge, I feel like, anyway. And when it comes to all of your team sitting there next to each other and seeing the other person getting praise for doing something good, well, guess what? They're going to be thinking, I want to get, you know, I want that. I don't want to be like the last man standing, not getting anything. You know, nobody wants to be the bad employee. Everybody always wants to be the good employee. So this is the good time to not only point out and say, great job, here you go, you know, keep doing what you're doing. And I could see that Michael Kors watch in your future very soon, you know, because that was the incentive that they asked for should they have hit their goals for the month at the end of the month. So at that time, you want to open up the floor and be like, share what you're doing. What is it? You know, like, now tell all of us so that we can be just as awesome as you are. And, you know, let them share in those ideas and open up. And it's going to come down to who your best marketer is, or who the person is that's bringing in the most guest traffic. That's going to be the most beneficial for you. Because if you have a team of people that don't necessarily feel comfortable in prospecting, they don't really know how to market appropriately, they don't host any promotions, they don't try to look to host any or do B2Bs, that's going to be a great opportunity for the person who is doing it. They're going to share what they're doing to the rest of the team. And guess what? You don't have to bark the orders. It's not coming from you saying, you have to do this. Why aren't you, you know, bringing in any guest traffic? You're not booking reds. When their coworker who is on their same level is sitting there going, it's not that hard. All I do is blah, 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 blah. They're going, oh man, I could totally do that because I go to dancing school, or I go there, and I can totally do the same thing you did with that group or organization. I think I could definitely pull that off with what I'm doing. And it's like a rah-rah. It's a halfway through point of saying, you know, I can totally do this. If she can or he can, I can definitely do this. It's a platform also to observe and ask questions to your staff. Like we mentioned, having them write it down on that agenda, where each of them get one of those. It's going to reveal what you need to train and correct on. So as you go through this, when they're saying that they have these specific obstacles that are in their way, that are preventing them from being able to be on point to hitting their goal or exceeding their goal, that's for you to go, oh, well, I'm glad that we're talking about this, because had I known that that's why you haven't really been able to sell, you know, this or whatever, I could have totally helped you out with that. I think maybe you just need product knowledge training, right? Maybe you don't even realize that the big selling point for this product specifically is the fact that it contains blah, 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 right? And then say, here, watch. Like, you pretend like you're a customer, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sell you on it. And then that's your show. So you did your tell and your show, and then you say, now do it back to me. That's role play. That's your opportunity to see where they're falling off and go, up, That's what it is. I bet you that's what it is. So you had everything great up until this point. Maybe consider saying it differently. Maybe consider smiling a little bit more. It could be your body language, but that's your opportunity to see it for yourself and go, oh, this is where you're falling off, to fix it. And you guys have heard us always talk about the ABC, the always be closing. Well, we're going to talk about the ABT, and that's always be training. This is where you need to keep that all the time in your offices behind the computers to remind yourselves sometime that there are times where you want to just step in because you're so obsessed with goal. Maybe you're one of them. You know, that was me. I was OCD and I missed training moments. And what I mean by that is whenever you want to step in, and anytime you feel free to step in and say, you know what, if you want something done, just do it yourself. I just need to hit this goal. I'll train and worry about it later. Don't. You always need to be training. So if there's an opportunity that you see where your staff member has an area that they need to improve on, but they're missing that opportunity or they're not doing it, you want to jump in and you want to say, here, I need you to watch me. Or jump in, do it, and say, did you see what I just did? This is a training moment. I was able to see you, blah, 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 right? So that's something to keep in mind for those of you out there. I know how easy it is to just say, I'm just going to do it myself because I know it'll get done. I know I'll be able to drive in the numbers just because I just want to hit the goal. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. You don't want to keep having to do that every single month, do you? So that's something that you need to be sure that you're aware of, that you need to ABT. You need to, and it doesn't mean about in text talk. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying always, always, always be training. Now, a way for you to stick to a discipline, to be self-disciplined and make sure you do these all the time, the only way to do it, you guys, and this is something that, thank God, we have this here in Spa Performance, because I wouldn't have even remembered to jump on this webinar if it wasn't for the recurring calendar event. Every single month or for every quarter, franchisees and spa directors, for your end of the month review meeting, and your game plan meeting, which is usually the first week, and your one-on-one with your spa director and franchisee, you need to do the same thing for your mid-month assessment, having a recurring calendar event or planning them out in advance every quarter or even for the year. Picking and choosing the dates based on what the dates fall on between the 13th and the 17th, right? So plugging it in there to remind yourselves to be prepared and share it with your staff, with your team. Share it with them so that they're very well aware in advance, that so they can't say, oh, well, I scheduled vacation, or I'm going out of town, I'm going to the beach or the lake that weekend, I can't come. No, we scheduled this out like clearly 3 months in advance, so it's on your schedule and it's going to remind you because it has reminders, but that's the only way you'll ever be able to be self-disciplined to that and stick to doing this, because I cannot tell you how beneficial doing these meetings are. Honestly, I'm gonna say that the people that I know that I've consulted personally, when it comes to this stuff, has been very, very aware, very understanding of the fact that it's huge, and they've seen actual numbers get produced after doing this and hosting these meetings. Another big thing that I wanted to make you guys aware of, I don't see the slide on here because I had an entire slide that was dedicated to this. I must have deleted it on accident, so I do apologize. But another big reason and another the purpose and importance of doing this is not only to drive in the numbers that you need to hit and exceed your goals. We've always talked in the past, hitting your goals is a job requirement. I don't want to celebrate that. Celebrating that and making you feel like you have job security. No, that's because that's what's expected of you. Exceeding your goals, right, is what we want to do, because that's the only way that you get any type of job security provided. But it's also a way, it's a mid-month marker, because maybe you hosted a meeting at the beginning of the month and you guys were rocking and rolling from March and you still have all this momentum and you're like, yeah, heck yeah, we're going to hit this goal. And for April, we're going to drive this in, and you're all pumped and motivated from that meeting. But then, here we are 2 weeks later into the month. Maybe we weren't we're losing that momentum. We're losing that excitement. This just reestablishes that. This re-energizes your team when you think that that they're pumped up, that when you think that they're motivated. Sometimes you get demotivated and your team coming together, even if it's nothing but a team building exercise and building camaraderie and having that opportunity to share ideas with each other. You're brainstorming. Creativity promotes positivity, and positivity promotes numbers. That is a platform, if anything, for you guys to come together and get re-energized and get refocused to the goal again. So that's another big reason that doing these things are so important, and that's another huge purpose of hosting these meetings. It's also going to make you very well aware of a potential staffing issue. And what I mean by that is when you're plugging these numbers in and you're seeing consultant 1, 2, and 3 that you're plugging these numbers in for, consultant 1 and 3 seem to be, neck and neck. They look to seem to be around the same. They're doing okay. With a little push from this meeting, they'll do even better and push them over the top. But you're noticing consultant 2 is lagging behind tremendously, and this is the second month in a row that this specific consultant is so far behind. I'm going to be paying closer attention and putting a lot more focus as a spa director. That's going to tell me I need to put a lot more of my leadership into this person here to figure out and drill down what it is that I'm doing wrong, because that's my fault if this consultant is not rising to the occasion. I'm going to take the blame for it. I'm going to put more focus now on being more behind this person, providing more training, really breaking down by asking questions. What is it about this that help me understand why you're not able to pull these off or do this or sell this, and really provide trainings to that person to be able to say, this is the third time I'm having to do it. It's time for me to replace. So that's another big advantage of these mid-month assessments as well, is it provides that opportunity for you to identify potential staffing issues as well. So, like I mentioned, I wasn't going to keep you long today. That was not hard. It was not difficult. If you have further questions, if you really want to drill down and go through an example one-on-one, if you want help from your spa performance consultant or your regional developer, just hit us up, spaperformance@planetbeach.com, and just kind of ask, hey guys, I had a few questions based on this webinar training from today. I'd love to get some feedback and opinions of other locations who do this, or I'd like to get a little bit more detailed training on this area, that area, or I maybe have more questions about something that was touched into but not covered in complete in a detailed fashion. So thank you guys for hanging in with me. Again, it was a short one compared to what we're used to. You guys go out there, get your game plans together, start working on this, and please, please, please be sure by close of business today you have this mid-month meeting scheduled and ready to go, and have people call in, video in, like I mentioned before. Don't just not host it, and pull this off. Do this, because I promise you it's going to help. You need to put your focus on, and at the end of the month of April, you'll be thanking us later. So you guys rock. You're awesome. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you guys on the Monday Motivation webinar call. And as always, don't forget to be awesome. Bye, guys.